Welcome back to Success and Equity on BC TV. I'm your host, Francis Mayer, and today we're talking about trade programs. The trades are something that you can never lose, much like a degree. The trades are skilled positions that require a very specific set of knowledge, and right now we're going to talk to somebody who teaches people trades, but not like the one that we just saw. That was Jeremy Stott, of course, in the BC Welding Program. Welding is a vital trade, and it's everywhere. Everything that is metal, from bridges to automobiles, required some degree of welding. But then everybody who welds needs to eat, and that was something that occurred to Chef Alex Gomez at a very early age. Welcome to the show, Chef.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, get close to that microphone, or else people won't hear you. Like you're sipping out of an espresso cup. There you go, Chef. You wanted to be a food professional since you were 8 years old. Is that right?
Correct. I would love cooking for my brother and sister, and just get in the kitchen and make some good food.
Yeah. And you said the first thing, or one of the early dishes, was spaghetti.
Spaghetti was my first go-to dish.
Although I bet you make it a little differently now, don't you?
Oh, definitely. A lot different. I've learned a little bit of tricks. It's not hard, but you can make a difference.
Nice. Chef, the trades are really great for a lot of students. You get to be active. You're up and moving around when you work. Did that appeal to you when you were a student?
It definitely did. I don't like to be confined to a desk if I can avoid it. But yeah, teaching, I kind of go to a desk a little bit more now. But it's kind of a mix. I get to still run in the kitchen in the lab setting, and it makes it real fun.
And you are teaching students the trade that you practice, which is, of course, food preparation. And there's a lot that goes into that. I mean, it's not just heating up food. You have to know how to take care of your tools. You have to know food safety. What all goes into a graduate of the BC Culinary Arts Program?
Well, it's very expansive because you need to first learn how to use the tools properly, to take care of the tools, like you said. But you also need to learn about culture. You need to learn about ingredients, and there's a plethora of different ingredients. I'm still learning ingredients to this day. I mean, things that you would be like, what's that? What do you do with it? So, there's always learning to do, but also there's math involved. You got to know how much money to spend on labor, how much money to spend on food, how much is this going to cost per pound, or if I'm buying it, by the pound, but I'm using in my recipe says by the cups, how to convert that into something that you can use in costing your recipes.
Wow. Oh, okay. So I am terrible at math, and I don't feel like I was especially a great student, except for the things that I like to do. Now, I was kind of considering taking some cooking classes, but now you've scared me just a little bit. Do you feel like you were a good student? Do you feel like you were good at math in school?
I was always good at math, but this is basic math. So if you're not real good at math, we can, work with you. And there's a lot of ways that you can get help at BC. There's tutoring programs, and there's places that you can go on campus for people to help. And, we're just doing simple addition, percentages,
Fractions,
fractions,
sure.
Yeah, things like that. It's not rocket science math. So, but it is necessary, and it's necessarily usable in your personal life too, because you need to know, your bank accounts. You need to know how much money you're spending. So, it applies there as well.
And Chef, I'll tell you, one thing I would glean from that is that I don't know what it is, but my tablespoon measurement always disappears. I don't know what people are doing with it. I don't know if the kids have a game they play with just the tablespoon, but I have to Google that at least once a week. Like, you would think I'd remember it now, but I don't. Maybe it's more like once or twice a month, but still, how many teaspoons go into a tablespoon? Now, you talked about the help that's available at BC, and boy, is that the truth. We have tutors available. We have student instructors. We have a lot of different ways that you can get assistance. You did not go the community college route, though. You went to a cooking school, or a culinary academy, I should say, in the prestigious city of San Francisco. I'm guessing that wasn't cheap.
No, it was real expensive. So I had worked a lot in the industry before I decided to go to school. I wanted to get to the next level. And
Were you doing everything? Because people, if you haven't worked in food service industry, and as I told you, I am a writer, so that means I waited tables, much like actors wait tables. And there's a lot of work in a restaurant
there is.
and hard hours, right?
Yeah, I would work for the first part of my career. I wouldn't get, consecutive days off. You have to work 6 days, sometimes 7 days. And I decided I wanted to go beyond that. I was managing the kitchen for a company, clothing company, actually. They had food service for their customers, and it was a really good job, but I wanted to go higher. I wanted to become maybe like a corporate kind of chef, and I needed some kind of schooling to do that. So I went to culinary school in San Francisco, and it did cost a lot of money. And I tell my students now who talk about, moving on to that kind of education, I tell them, look, the community college route is the way to go. Because in retrospect, I could have saved a lot of money for myself, and I would have got classes and credits that would transfer into higher degrees. So when you go back down the road and you decide, I need to get my bachelor's or I need to get my master's, now you're not going back to square one and having to do some classes that you did not get in a vocational, like just vocational school,
Right.
like I went to.
And there are some prestigious names out there. I mean, I'll throw one out there, Cordon Bleu, right? And people hear that, and it sounds pretty prestigious, but they have little franchises and branches all over the country, right?
Right, which are all being shuttered pretty much in the United States. So it's one of those things is you get a good cooking foundation from them at a extremely high cost, and you're just going to go into an entry-level position when you get out of there. So you don't get your general education out of there, and that's what you need. You need to get a broader variety of education, not just focused on cooking, because it's going to help you in all avenues of your life.
I couldn't agree more. And also, BC's been around for over 100 years. We're not going anywhere. You don't have to worry about enrolling in BC and then hoping that we stay open so you can finish your degree. That is definitely going to happen. And the product that you churn out, if you have any doubts at all about the skill level of the students that are in the Bakersfield College Culinary Arts Program, I encourage you to make a reservation at the Renegade Room because, boy, chef, wow.
Yeah, and if you need to do that quickly because we're in our last 2 weeks of service before we have a break for the summer. But then in the fall, definitely, we're going to be there 3 weeks after training in the beginning of the semester. We open up, and there's a new group of students, and it's really fun to see them progress from the beginning when we open to like now at the end of the semester. The difference of when they started, it's a big transformation.
And I've gone at different times during the semester, and I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that you threw them into the fire after just 3 weeks.
Yeah, they do have to take sanitation and some theory classes and an intro class before they can actually get kind of into the lab setting. So they have a little bit of exposure and a little bit of knowledge, but it's still all brand new. It's like, okay, now you have to cook this. Here's your assignment. Here's your recipe. I want to see you, produce this and with your hands and get in there and let's see how you can do it.
And they do it well. And again, you need to make a reservation for this. I thought that I could just walk up one evening and made a phone call, and I got a message that was like, "You're a fool." Well, they didn't call me a fool, but they said, "Yeah, we've been booked up for quite a while." Chef, after you graduated from the Culinary Arts School, I imagine you had some student debt. Did you get right to work?
I did, and I was fortunate that I had transferred from the company I was working at, and I was able to work at the same time. So I was doing 70, 80-hour weeks with work and school. But when I was done, my company that I worked for had put me back. I was able to do the management position again in San Francisco. And, it helped me pay it. I paid it off in 6 years. That's just my personality. But yeah, if you get a job, you need to work hard and pay those loans off. This is going to be a lot better at a community college level, though, because you're not going to be paying that much. I mean, you'll have to pay some, but it's a minute amount comparatively.
Right, and the cost of living's lower in Bakersfield. And Chef, how do you feel about the produce selection living in the Central Valley?
Well, the good thing is that we have it all around us. I mean, there's citrus, there's nuts, there's potatoes, there's garlic. There's everything, and it's really a good place to be if you want to do kind of farm to table kind of cooking, right?
Yeah, and that's a pretty novel movement right now. Like some restaurants are, well, actually a lot of restaurants are doing that where they like have a garden on the side, right?
Yeah, and yeah, there's some like in big cities that are growing stuff on the rooftop. But we have the beautiful land here that's just full and enriched with all this produce that our great farmers are growing.
Right, and it's very cool to be a chef. I mean, there are a number of cable shows devoted to cooking as a competition, cooking as an elevated art form. And if there is somebody out there who's been watching Gordon Ramsay or some of the other celebrity chefs, and they think, hey, I might want to give this a shot, what are some things that they need to be prepared for, and what are some things that will help them succeed?
Well, the one thing that people will probably think that it's glamorous because that's the way it's portrayed on TV. And I would just say, okay, don't go in there expecting like you're not going to do any work because it's hard work. And I try to tell the students in the beginning, day one, okay, if you don't want to work, it's probably a good idea to walk out the door right now. Give them that opportunity because, it can get hot in the kitchen. You sweat a little bit especially in the summer here in Bakersfield.
Yeah.
But then, you're going to be on your feet for long periods of time. And so always invest in a good pair of shoes.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, you can't say enough about comfortable shoes, especially as you get a little bit older. I don't skimp on the shoes. I prefer Clarks and running shoes myself. But Chef, all kinds of people can succeed in the culinary arts, can't they?
Oh, definitely. So it all goes back to the passion. If you really love food and you want to, help people and, create things for people and make people happy, culinary arts is a job for you. The bad parts that you would think like, standing on your feet, working a lot of hours and being hot or whatever, it pales in comparison to the other things that are good about it. It's like making people happy, creating something with your hands and, making some really good food.
Yeah, my father was a cook, and what was always amusing about him is we would go to stay with my grandmother, who wasn't 100% fond of him, and he would always win her over by waking up early and cooking the most killer breakfast you've ever seen. And people will love you for making good food. I mean, I'm sure you've won over people before.
Definitely. I always say that you can make a lot of friends through food. I mean, you bring stuff and people they love it and they love you.
Yeah, no, they absolutely do, and that's something we definitely know on the Bakersfield College campus. We're privileged enough to have many of the treats that you whip up. But cooking also comes down to following recipes, which is to follow directions, right?
Yes. You need to follow the directions in a recipe. If you don't, it'll totally change the recipe. And it applies to a school setting also. It's like if you're in a class, whether it be culinary, math, English, psychology, you need to follow the directions, to be successful. And I try to, convey that message to the students also.
And we're not talking about overthinking this. Like Chef Alex said, if you're having problems with math or reading comprehension or writing, there are tutors and programs available to help you. But first, you have to follow directions. You have to show up to class. You have to pay attention. And you have to just dot the I's and cross the T's. Like you were saying, if it says that the report needs to be turned in 12-point font, do it in 12-point font.
Yep.
Don't say, oh, it might be easier on Chef Alex if I do it in a larger font. No. 12-point font.
Yeah.
Plastic cover.
4 pages means 4 pages, or 3,000 words means 3,000 words. It doesn't mean, I'm going to make my font bigger to cover that page a little bit quicker. If it's supposed to be in a binder, you put it in a binder. You don't just turn it in with papers and stapled. So, basic things that they need to just follow the directions that are given to them. And, you can really be successful by doing that.
by just following the directions.
Yeah, following directions. It's a big one.
Yeah, and that is the Chef Alex tip of the day. So if people want to get involved with culinary arts, is there anything specific that they need to do to qualify, or do we just need them to get in and see a guidance counselor?
They need to come and see the guidance counselor, and we pretty much take almost everybody, so it should be in there. And then we like to see them succeed too. We have people working at the Padre, working at interning at Mama Roomba's. There's restaurants all over town that are taking our students and working with them.
Well, and I think that's because the program has a good reputation. I mean, in the past, the students have done the Sterling Silver fundraiser, which is a prestigious event. They prepare a lot of food for different events on campus. And then, of course, like I said, the Renegade Room. In fact, that was the last dinner out that my wife and I went on, and we were not disappointed. The lamb chops were wonderful. So thank you, Chef, for being on the show. And if you want to get involved in a trade that is just as hot as welding, almost, but a lot tastier, and you want to check into the BC Culinary Arts Program. Like Chef Alex said, it's for everybody if you can follow directions and you're ready to work. Maybe you'll have a reality show of your own before too long. Coming up next, we're going to see the conclusion of the video that's about the welding trades. Tasty, tough. It's all about the trades on Success and Equity on BC TV.